Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr. Today I'm talking about burn your boats, but not your provisions. I'm going to take some lessons from history. Specifically, Alexander the Great shows up on the Persian shores, lights his boats on fire, and says, "We will go home in Persian boats or we die." But he didn't light his provisions on fire. He still had things to help him be successful. So, today, burn your boats, but not your provisions. This is 100 Days of Animation, day 69, where I spend 30 minutes every day trying to finish my short film. Now, I'm not planning on finishing my short film at this point within the 100 days. I know I was saying that at the beginning, but there's a balance, and I am going to make a good short film. It is going to be the best thing that I can produce at this point in time in my life. And so while I am willing to make certain sacrifices in what I'm producing, I am not willing to sacrifice too much of the quality. And so it's taken me a little bit longer, but also I did spend the first 20 to 35 days trying to figure out what I was doing. Because, for those of you that are new here, welcome. I don't know how to use Adobe After Effects. I know Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop very, very well. I teach those on a collegiate level. But I didn't know After Effects, and so I've started this project as a way to learn that. Also because I had a story to tell, and I wanted to tell it. So with that, I want to talk about success and the way that we view winning, and some of the things that we can do to sabotage ourselves from succeeding. So before I get to that, intro music. All right. So if you have spoken to me at all on Twitter or in person or watched any of these videos, you've probably noticed that I like history, ancient history. And I do. It's fun. I like it. I think there are good lessons to be learned. I think that in history we see our potential future if we do not heed its warnings. But I also think that there are good things to be learned from real people. So in the Battle of Thermopylae, the Battle of the Hot Gates, we have the Persians were going to overtake Greece, which was not a single city. It was a little collective of city-states like Sparta and Athens. Those were the big ones. And they were toying with this idea of democracy, right? And we had King Leonidas and 300 Spartans and about 1,200 other, I think it was about 1,200. Anyway, a group of other people that had kind of come from neighboring villages and cities who met them at the gates. And the Persians numbered in the tens of thousands. There was tons of them. They had conquered the Persian Empire was gigantic, right? And so they met them at the gates and delayed them enough. They ended up losing, but they stayed there and delayed them enough for several days to actually allow a naval battle on the other side to defeat their troops and drive them back. And so, in essence, these individuals, these 300 Spartans and some of the people that were fighting with them, and we really only know a couple of their names, but King Leonidas, who's a real person, stood his ground and sacrificed his life for something that he cared for. And the world, not just America, but any free nation today, owes King Leonidas and those that fought with him and died with him a huge debt. Because without that, the American Constitution would not have been written the way that it was written, or it might not have been written at all, because much of what they set up was based on this ancient Greek and Roman type of government, which influenced the constitutional monarchy of England, with the House of Lords and the House of Commons and the king, and then the Americans had this branch or this system of government that was loosely based on kind of those three situations, with John Locke talking about it. Anyway, there was lots of things that happened, but basically this idea that you could rule by the voice of the people, this idea of democracy and freedom, even though looking back at it, it was kind of hypocritical because they owned slaves and they had kings and whatnot. But I try not to judge history by today's standards and just pull the lessons out of it that I can. Now, so there's a short example. I want to talk about when Alexander the Great showed up on the shores of Persia, and they were vastly outnumbered. It was a terrifying scene to pull up and see the Persian army. And do you know what he did? Is he ordered them to burn their boats. And so they burned their boats. And what that actually did was he turned around and he said, "We conquer or we die. We will go home in Persian boats or we will die." And so they had no other choice but to succeed. Now, I think that there are some lessons to be learned there, but I think we need to be careful with those lessons. These situations are not, we shouldn't take things like that and apply them to our lives without some thought. Now, here's a situation where I think you could burn the boats and it would not be a good idea, right? So it would not be a good idea to burn the boats when, let's say, I want to become a freelancer, or I want to go out and I want to strike out on my own, and I want to get this book published, or I want to, get this film, done, or whatever, right? And if I did that without any food stores, okay, or if I did that without any provisions, or in other words, in modern times, I don't have any money saved up, or I don't have any way of any income coming, what's going to happen very, very quickly is that I'm not going to succeed no matter how motivated I am. I'm going to have to quit so that I can get some kind of income coming in, because I need to eat, I need to pay rent or mortgage, I need to, there's some money that I need to do to survive, need to have to survive. And so some preparation, and you can bet that Alexander didn't show up with like a sandwich and say, "Okay, burn the boats, let's go." No, they had stuff with them. They came prepared. What they did is they just made exiting not an option, right? And so when I talk about burning the boats, I'm talking about the way that we speak. And I just watched Joshua Kemble. Now, he's got a YouTube channel, and I've actually listened to him in podcasts and a number of things, but I was just listening to a video of his, and he was talking about this defeatist attitude. And I'm actually a fairly optimistic guy, and I accomplish a lot, right? But I constantly have this dialogue with people that I explain away the lack of commercial success of some of the things that I'm working on by saying that I'm not doing it to make money. My intention isn't for it to sell. I'm doing it because I enjoy being creative. I'm doing it because I want to learn. I'm doing it because I feel this drive and this need to make things. Now, the reasons that I state for doing all of these things, those are true. I do feel a drive to create. I do not feel whole if I go too long and I haven't made something. It bothers me. I start to get antsy. I wouldn't say I'm naturally a driven person, but because I have put in the effort to become somebody who produces something a lot, I feel a drive now. Now, I have this pet peeve that I will talk about at some other time, but my pet peeve is this. When people say, "Oh man, I wish I was that motivated." Motivation follows work. Motivation follows work. It does not precede work. an inkling, an idea, a little spur, a thought sometimes precedes work, but work creates motivation, right? People are motivated because they work. They don't work because they are motivated. Now, having said that, I do have this drive. But at the same time, when I tell people, I'm not doing this because I want to, I'm not doing this for the fame or the fortune or the commercial success of it. I'm not intending to sell it. What I'm actually doing is I'm actually keeping kind of an eye on that boat. And when it doesn't succeed, I haven't failed because I risked nothing. I stated outright that my intention was for this thing to not, go viral or get picked up by somebody or, be viewed a certain number of times. I haven't set any goals for that project. And so when nothing happens with that project and I get a couple of people that say, hey, that's neat. I like that. That looks great. It's a success. It's a success by default because I finished a thing. That's what I set out to do. And so I think in this instance, I want to burn a boat. I want to burn my boat. And I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not talking about burning my boat and my only chance of survival is for this to happen. But I am going to stop claiming that I don't want my projects to be successful or financially viable. Now, I like the idea of a day job. I enjoy my day job. I love the fact that my work in the evenings and weekends doesn't have to turn a profit, though I do work that I get paid for work and it's a nice little boost. But the fact that I don't need that is really nice, and I can do kind of whatever I want. When it comes to creation, if a client comes to me and I like the project, I can take it on. If I'm in the middle of working on something, I can tell them, I'm in the middle of finishing this thing up. If you don't mind waiting, I can get to you. Or if it's the thing that I don't want to do, I say, you know what? I know a number of students that would be perfect for this. Let me give you some names. But along those lines, I would love for people to view my work. I would love for some explosion of views and eyeballs on the things that I've seen. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say that I'm in this in some sort of weird altruistic monk-like serenity where I'm creating something in this vacuum and I'm doing it, and I don't care if anyone ever sees it. If that were the case, I wouldn't be doing things to put them online. I wouldn't show them, to get feedback or critique, and also, to hope that people see it. So I'm stating outright right now, I want this short film to have commercial success. I don't know what that is. I haven't really looked into it too much, though I will say this. I will be entering it in some film festivals and some contests. And so I think a success for this would be a screening of some kind. Somewhere where I don't have any influence over the judges and that I don't know anyone, and they view that and they say, yes, this is something that we want to show at our thing. So that's my goal now. My new goal is, and I'm stating it publicly here, in an attempt to light my boat on fire behind me so that I can't equivocate and say I'm only doing this for the creativity and I'm only doing this, for the fulfillment of it. Those are true. Those are major reasons that I'm doing it. But I also want it to be seen. So my new goal is I am going to create something that will show at festivals. I'm going to create something that is going to screen somewhere. And I don't know. I'm going to shoot for South by Southwest. I'm going to shoot for some short film animation places. And I'm going to look up, where would be a place that would probably play something like this. And I'm going to go for it. I'm going for it. And those of you that haven't stuck your neck out, might not understand how scary it is to have this burning boat behind me right now, because I'm staking a claim that that is my intention. And that means that if that doesn't happen, that's a public failure. And if I'm going to live my life authentically and true to who I am, I need to be okay with the fact that failure is part of success. The risk of not succeeding is part of the opportunity to succeed. And so if I never step on the field, I can't win the game, but I can't lose. Hey, I'm undefeated because I never played. So I'm not going to do that. I'm burning my boat. I will have this screened somewhere. This film will show. Anyway, that's my intention. Now, having said that, I'm on day 69. I've got 31 days left. It's not going to happen within that period of time. And so what I'm going to do with this now is I am now going to, my new goal for this 100 days is I will have my story completely boarded. I will know all the beats, which I'm almost there now, and I will have a teaser trailer cut and ready to go. Or at least I will have all the scenes for the teaser trailer animated. The reason I equivocate there a little bit is because music is really important, and I have no idea what I'm going to do for music at this point. I know I can't afford to license something recognizable, but I'm going to look into if I can afford to hire someone, and I don't ask people to work for free. Just a personal. That's just something that I don't do. That's something that I refuse to do. Is, hey, work for exposure. That's not my bag. So I've got to figure out going rates for scoring something, and see if that's even a possibility. And if not, then I don't know. I might have to do it myself. And we'll see how that goes. I don't know. But in any case, I will have, by the end of this 100 days, within the next 31 days, I feel very comfortable in the things that I have learned. I realize that there is a lot of stuff that I have not learned yet in After Effects, but I feel very comfortable in the things that I have learned, and I'm sure I will continue to learn much, much more. But in the next 31 days, I will have all of the scenes that I need to cut together a teaser trailer completed. And within this year, I will complete this short film. And so I hope it doesn't take me the entire year. I'm anticipating at this pace. It did take me quite a long time to ramp up. There was a huge learning curve, and it was pretty slow going at the beginning. And I remember that first character that I rigged. Oh my gosh, I feel like it was like 2 weeks of rigging and breaking it and screwing it up and doing it again. And I had to re-rig that character, I don't even know how many times. So many times. And some of them were, I did it and it worked okay, but then I had a better idea of how to rig it better. And in any case, I've got a pretty decent workflow now of kind of how I'm going to do things and what I'm going to do. So that's that. That's that. That's what I'm going to do. That is my plan, is I will have a functioning trailer by the end of this 100 days. I'm burning my boat, and I am stating emphatically right now that my intent is to have this screened. And I don't know if that's Sundance, Cannes. There's hundreds of smaller places. I'm good with anything public that I can get it into. That isn't something like local where it's like a buddy of mine and they say, sure, I'll put it on or whatever. Like something where somebody who has no reason to do me any favors decides to include it in their program. That's my goal. A screening somewhere. At least one. I don't want to apply to a lot. So that's that. I've burned my boat. There is, I go home in a Persian ship or die. I don't intend on dying because I'm just doing a little animation about bugs. So it's not going to kill me in any case. I'm going to recommend a couple books here that I think are helpful in informing this. Seth Godin's The Icarus Deception. That is a great book. It talks about this idea that Icarus, right? He makes his wings and he's told, don't fly too low because the salt in the water will kind of break down the wax in the wings and the wings will fall apart. But don't fly too high, because if you fly too high, you'll get too close to the sun and the wax will melt and you will fall down. And he flew too high and died, right? And that's kind of the Icarus thing. And what Seth Godin is saying in that book is he's saying that we have bought into this lie that we should live below our station, that we shouldn't aim high for things. He talks a lot about artists. And in producing your art, you should feel vulnerable. You should share it publicly. You should niche down. You shouldn't be afraid to be weird. And you should fly and aim as high as you possibly can. Because with that, you're not buying into that lie that you need to kind of be middle of the road. Be mediocre. And many of us feel like there's this safety in mediocrity. I want to do this thing, but I'm going to be mediocre because mediocre is safe and okay. And I feel comfortable being mediocre. So that's The Icarus Deception by Seth Godin. Another one is Quitter by Jon Acuff. Now, this book is specifically talking about how to quit your day job to get your dream job. But what I like about it is it doesn't feel to me like a lot of the self-help mumbo jumbo where if you can believe it, you can achieve it, right? If you can imagine that it'll happen, then just, it will just come to fruition. And a lot of that stuff like The Secret and stuff like that, I think is garbage. Now, I do believe in positive attitude and positive thinking and visualization and things like that, but with work, right? You've got to be the vehicle that does that. Now, with Quitter, what I like about it is the first chapter is called Don't Quit Your Day Job. Now, you think that would be ironic in a book that is talking literally about how to quit your day job, and the first chapter is Don't Quit Your Day Job. The point of it is he says that you shouldn't quit your day job because if you do that, you will very quickly have your dream turn into a nightmare. And the reason for that is that you need to slowly build up your dream job on the side while you are working your day job. You put everything you have into your day job, but when you get home, you hustle and you work. And eventually you will build up whatever your dream job is to the point where you can transition to something that is already viable. And you've got a little money put away and things like that. Because what happens is, if I just put a stake in the ground right now, today, with no savings, and I say, I'm going to do X, right? And I storm in and I quit, and everybody's like, oh, that's amazing. How brave. You know what's going to happen in a week or two is I'm going to need money for food. I'm going to need to buy some food. And then they're going to come and they're going to say, hey, this house you're living in that you borrowed money to buy? We need that payment now. You owe us our mortgage payment. Hey, that car you're driving around? You need gas if you want to drive it around. And so there's this transition that allows you to transition in a logical way from a day job to a situation where you are making money in your dream job without it becoming a nightmare. I like those two books. I like a lot of other books, but those are the two that I'm talking about right now. So, burn your boats, but do it in a way that doesn't set you up to have your dream become a nightmare. That's my roundabout, watered down, weird analogy. I don't think that you can always apply war to life. And I think that's a huge problem with a lot of politics today is they take things like The Art of War, which is an interesting book about subterfuge and spying and, promoting kind of confusion on the battlefield and whatnot. And it's a good read, but The Art of War shouldn't apply to your life. You're not at battle with anybody, right? Now, there are certain things that you should fight for and certain things that you should fight against. but you don't have a sword. You don't have a bow and arrow. You're not running around going against some hordes of whomever, right? And so trying to apply, some of those things and literally apply every facet of that to, not life-threatening things, I think can be kind of dangerous. So Alexander the Great burned his boats at Persia, and there's a scene in The Office. I can't remember who it is, but he references this, and I think it's Andy. It might be. I'm not sure. And so he says, you know what? I'm going to quit, but I'm going to make it so that I can never come back. I'm going to burn my boat, because if I can come back here, whatever. And so he was talking about burning his bridges, and I think he took a crap on somebody's desk or something. I can't remember exactly. I need to go find that scene. But anyway, don't do that, right? So metaphorically burn your boat, but not in such a way that you're burning bridges and you're making stupid decisions, right? And so do say this, though. My intention is for this to happen. I'm gonna throw it out there, and I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen, right? And so within reason, without sacrificing my job, my family, my beliefs, or who I am as a core person, without sacrificing those aren't on the table. I will do what it takes to get this screened. That's my burn a boat. So I'm curious, what are the goals that you should make? What are the proclamations that you should make that you haven't yet? Or if you have, use the comment section to burn your boat and tell us what it is. Are you going to get a book published? Are you going to get an illustration picked up by a major thing? Are you going to get signed with someone? Are you going to start a 100 days or 30 days challenge? Like, what is it that you're going to do? And stake your claim and stake it publicly. And honestly, in the comment section of my videos is not terribly public based on the number of views that I have, but you make that, and then that should drive you to do everything, because my integrity as a person is extremely important to me. Now, there are some things that are outside of my control. I can't control other people's decisions. But everything on my side of this fight, everything on my side, I will do everything I can to make that happen. Now, maybe it won't be good enough, and people will decide, not to pick it up. That is a possibility, but that's outside of my control, so I'm not going to worry about it. What I am going to do is I'm going to state it emphatically. This is my plan, and my word is important to me, and my name is important to me. And so when I say that I will do something, and when I attach my name to something, those are things that I value very highly. And my integrity is something that I value very highly. And so when I say this, it is uncomfortable and makes me feel vulnerable, but it also sets up a goal for me to shoot for. And I know that I did a whole rant on goal setting, and I don't like setting goals because I'm an existentialist and I enjoy the journey. But I also think as an existentialist that our actions are what define us, and to be authentic to who I am, it would be disingenuous and dishonest if I were to say I'm not doing this for the success. Now, I might not get success, but honestly, I would love it. I'm not making this because I don't think it needs to be made. I'm making this because it does need to be made. This story does need to be told, and I hope that I do it in such a way that it could change people's lives and change people's minds about politics and the way that government should and should not work, and the way that citizens should and should not act. I'm hoping that there are people out there that watch this, that it helps them think a little bit about some things, and it gets a conversation going. And that can only happen if people watch it. And so here I am saying that I would like people to watch it. And so that's it. Anyway, that's kind of a long rant, weird little dealio. So I've burned my boat. You can check out my stuff at corykerr.com. I've got a store there. You can also follow me on Twitter. I love having conversations with people on Twitter, so if you ever want to hit me up on Twitter, feel free. And Instagram is fun, and I'm sharing some things on Instagram. I've kind of abandoned Snapchat, but all of those are on my website. You can go to corykerr.com, click on social media, and I've got a big link there. There's also a link in the description of this video, and that is it. I will leave you with the idea of flaming retreat that I cannot go back to in the background with this outro music. I'm out.